right, welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, occasionally, if you follow my Twitter feed, you know I like to put on my tinfoil hat and go off in conspiracy land. And I'm going to do that today on today's show here. I'm going to go off into a little tinfoil land. And I'm going to do it by myself because I don't want to drag anybody else into it, because sometimes we're not given the grace to think out loud. Sometimes, you know, over Twitter, a lot of times I'll ask questions and people will be all, how dare you ask that question? You should have done your research. You should blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I like to engage with my audience in an authentic way and talk to my audience like I'm talking to a friend. And it's very off-putting on social media for a lot of people because they bring different expectations in as opposed to how I like to use social media. That, you know, I don't think of myself as above my audience. I think of myself as the audience is my equal and we're just having a conversation. I'm there to pass along the insight that I feel like I have, the ideas that I have, and I'm interested in hearing your ideas, in your pushback, in your correction of things that I may say wrong. And so today, I may say some inaccurate things, but I'm trying my hardest to understand what went on in Charlotte and why it's being covered and or addressed the way that it has been. And so I'm going to continue the conversation about the massacre in Charlotte on that train. I can't even, and you guys, I'm sorry for not knowing. I know what's his name? DeCarlos, whatever, but this career criminal arrested 14 times that did this. I don't even know his name. I'm not that interested in his name. He's unimportant individually, but what he represents is very important. And so you'll hear me say some things, and for some of you that aren't biblical in your thoughts, I'm going to sound crazy. But when I watch this video, if I try to understand it at face value, I'm like, this man is demon possessed. And because we have become so secular, we don't even understand demons and the wickedness, the evilness that we're seeing. We don't interpret things the way that we used to interpret things previously, in previous generations, when our worldview was much more Christian, much more biblical, much more rooted in the spiritual nature of this world. Now everything is very secular, and so we don't think this way. But this conversation about Charlotte and this DeCarlos Brown Jr. and this Ukrainian woman that he assassinated apparently for no reason. And everybody wants to talk about the mental health aspect, and we need to open up insane asylums, and we need to not let guys like this get in the revolving door of our criminal justice system, and this judge that let him out. I get all of that. But on a deeper level, we need to, American society, if we want to correct this, we're going to have a very, very uncomfortable conversation about a culture that is demonic. And I get, well, the whole culture is, and yes, it is. Trust me, the child sacrifice of abortion, that's a demonic culture. But in this instance, we're not talking about that. And so I know many of you have a default setting of, what about white people? What about this? What about that? We're not talking about that today. Those issues are on the table. They can be discussed, but that's not what we're talking about today. Me, as someone with dark skin, who's identified as black in America, who loves the way I was wonderfully made by my Creator. Love it, every aspect of it. I have a concern about the brand, reputation, image of black people and how it's been tarnished and how it's been demonized by us, by our adoption and acceptance of a demonic culture. And rap music, here you go again, Jason. What about the Godfather movies? What about Scarface? What about Ozzy Osbourne and horror rock music? And we're not talking about that today. And let's take Ozzy Osbourne's music. Do you see people, white people, running around saying, that's our culture? That Ozzy Osbourne and his music and whoever else is in that lane of music, that's our culture. I don't see that. That's a genre of music that represents people that were into biting bats' heads off and rock music and drugs and all that. But it didn't explain all of white people in America, and there's a lot of white people that completely reject that. Black people, we're afraid to reject hip hop and the demonic nature of this music that we've been bathed in, and we call it black and it's ours and we own it, and anybody that speaks against it is a sellout. We've wrapped our identity, and many of you are sitting there, well, not me, I don't. I barely listen to it, or I keep it in perspective. But does the culture at large, and do the people that are terrorizing neighborhoods and communities, the people that are terrorizing innocent victims, perhaps we should be discussing, are they demon possessed? And perhaps demon possession is more widespread than even we could imagine. And perhaps there was a time when the kind of music that promoted the kind of depravity and foolishness and all the symbolism that's in rap music. Go watch Snoop Dogg's Murder Was the Case. Go watch, I think it's Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. Oh man, I forget the name of the song, but it had very powerful video. But it flirts with all this demonic, devil worshiping, all of this stuff. And we've normalized it. And then we look out and see someone like DeCarlos Brown Jr., who clearly to me, if he were trying to rob this woman and killed her, I think we'd all sit back and say, oh man, this is terrible tragedy, lock this dude up for life, give him the death penalty. But he was broke. He was trying to rob someone. That happens. But just killing a young woman that got on a train and sat in front of you and then saying something about, I got that white girl. This is demonic. And it's the fruit of a demonic culture. And people used to take, when I was a kid, we watched the movie The Exorcist, and you know, it was a very frightening experience watching the movie The Exorcist. And we believed in, like, man, this is why you don't play with God. This is why you don't play with demonic things. This is why you don't even enter into that realm and that world. We knew that there were spirits, demonic spirits, attached to many people and attached to many things. There is not that reverence or fear anymore. We have an entire culture that we define ourselves by and adopt and defend that is demonic in nature. It's perverting the minds of little children. Little children know sexy red songs and sing these sexualized, profane lyrics. Know them the way I used to know nursery rhymes. Know them the way I used to know my ABCs. This is demonic. And everyone's afraid to speak against it because you'll get called an Uncle Tom or a sellout. Or you think it's, yeah, I know it's bad and just move on. You think it's unimportant that kids, in the name of blackness, are being raised up against. You'll have the worst reputation on the planet because you've called yourself the N-word. You've celebrated music that calls you the N-word. You've celebrated music that promotes sexual violence, violence in general, drug dealing. You've celebrated a form of music that perverts the mind of children. This black fatigue that that's becoming pervasive across America, perhaps it's the consequence of our cowardice, our fear of standing up to the people and the culture and the music that has defined us as criminal deviants. If you won't speak against it, give you over to a reprobate mind. And so when I'm sitting here trying to understand, like, what has happened here, I believe some of it is intentional. The fact that we've allowed 30, 40 years of a demonic form of music to define us and our culture, I think this is intentional. The fact that responsible voices have been eliminated as it relates to black people. Responsible voices have been eliminated from legacy television platforms. You can't host a radio show on a black-owned station unless you're pro-hip-hop. You can't appear on CNN or MSNBC or damn near Fox, but mostly CNN, MSNBC, unless you support the matriarchy or unless you support the leftist evil cult of abortion. The mainstream media has made Dr. Ben Carson a laughingstock. This is a neurosurgeon who married his black high school sweetheart. And black people have tolerated him being called an Uncle Tom and a sellout and being demonized as anti-black. This man married and is still married to his black high school sweetheart. He's one of the most brilliant minds we've ever produced, and he's a laughingstock and demonized. And in order to get on any of these mainstream television platforms, as a black man, you're better off with a criminal record than a non-criminal record. And as a black woman, you better not have an ounce of conservative values that you're willing to stand on and defend. I get so tired of hearing about, well, you know, black people are really conservative. No, we're not. No, we're not. Not en masse. There's a handful of us, a very tiny handful of us. The rest, you're not going to stand on and defend any conservative values, not in a real way. Because you're so obsessed with, do they like me? And I want you to find that anywhere in the Bible where it says people have to like you. in order to be in the good graces of God. But that is the mentality of black people. If someone says, hey man, you black people, you don't get married, you don't properly raise your kids, you love to listen to music that's profane and calls black people the N-word and promotes drug dealing, you'll blare it out of your cars, you'll dance to it at parties, and you're shocked that people are like, hey man, y'all support abortion, you support music that defines you as clowns, and you're shocked when people say, man, I don't like y'all. I don't like what you stand for. Your women are loud. All of you run around entitled, feeling like America owes you something, and victimhood is your identity, and you're shocked that people are like, man, I don't like you. I don't like your values. You think it's all about skin color, and it's not. It's about your mentality, our mentality. People don't like people who claim victimhood as their identity. People don't like people that won't stick in a marriage and police, govern, disciple, nurture the children that they brought into this earth. They don't want to live next door to kids that aren't properly supervised. They don't want to live next door to kids whose parents tell them, well, you're a victim. And any experience you have with a white person that doesn't go your way is an example of racism. They don't like us because that's our mentality. The handful of us that don't have that mentality, they don't have a problem with. So maybe it's our attitude that is demonic. You can't be a Christian and see yourself as a victim. You can't defend Carmelo Anthony. You can't, what about Favre? Or what about X, Y, and Z? You can't make George Floyd an idol and keep the respect of rational, normal people. So I know I've taken a long approach to get here, but Will Cain, who very respected in sports media and now very respected in mainstream news, cable news media. There are people that are, oh, Will Cain's racist. I've seen no evidence of it. I've not been close to Will Cain, but I've known him for a number of years. This man is not some flaming bigot. But he did on his show yesterday, I believe, he talked about the Charlotte train massacre, and he talked about the epidemic of black on white violence. And there will be many of you say, there is no epidemic. These numbers are, they seem big, but for the most part, black people aren't killing white people. And there may be a kernel of truth in that defense. But when you've taken a smaller number, a much smaller number of white people that have committed violence against black people and passed that off as an epidemic that must be addressed, you sound like a fool when the stats come in and the data comes in that people have been very aware of, that you're far more likely for a black man to attack a white person than a white man to attack a black person. You set the standards with Black Lives Matter. And now you're sitting there shocked that Will Cain and others like, okay, let's go on your standards. Now let's apply it to black on white violence. And where's the outrage? We must do something about this. Y'all set the standard. Well, what happened to George Floyd when he took enough fentanyl to kill Secretariat and Seabiscuit, but we blamed his death on Derek Chauvin, and we had to have Juneteenth, we had to have the George Floyd laws trying to be passed. We put up monuments of George Floyd. Well, now the rabbit's got the gun. Will Cain and white men have the gun. And they're tired of being framed as the worst people on the planet by you. You started this argument with your Black Lives Matter movement, with your ignoring of black on black crime, with your ignoring of the depravity and the degeneracy of hip hop music. And all I hear, well, who's financing it? Oh, Jason, you're afraid to talk about the Jews that run the music in it. No, I'm not. But I'm also not afraid to talk about the participants and the people that have co-signed hip hop music, adopted it as their identity. We got to talk about it all because it's all getting discussed. And so all the noticing that's going on, because people are talking about who's benefiting, who's financing, and who's participating. They're calling it noticing. It's all getting discussed. And I'm telling black people, if we don't reject this racial idolatry, the hell that we're going to catch as white men develop or redevelop, rediscover their backbone and say, hey, we're not putting up with this BS anymore. Your children, you may have gotten a job promotion at your job, you may have gotten some bonus as they filled some DEI quota, but your children are gonna have to live with the consequences of the brand that you left them for black people. They're going to enter into a workforce that will be unlike anything we've seen over the past 50 years. And look, maybe your kids will all be entrepreneurs and they'll have their own businesses and they can run around thinking of themselves as victims and thinking that the white man is the worst thing on the planet. Maybe they'll all be entrepreneurs and they'll be able to stand on their own 2 feet. I doubt it. 80% of them have been raised by a single mother, and she thinks of herself as a victim and a damsel in distress every day of the week. She's not a builder, she's a grifter. And I'm sorry if that sounds negative, but all these feminists, regardless of color, they're not builders, they're grifters. You know what builders do? Builders have babies. Builders, female builders, have babies, and they're helpmeets for the fathers that help them have babies. That's how they build. You running around thinking that Stacey Abrams and Jasmine Crockett are going to build a damn thing. Wait till that toilet backs up and they call a male plumber. They ain't fixing nothing. They ain't paving no roads. They ain't doing a damn thing. They're grifters and beggars in need of a man. But I'm distracted, or I'm off track a bit, because this issue makes me emotional. I know the world that I was born into. I know that how I was seen in this world as a young person. I know the opportunities that were granted me for being willing to show up to work on time and put in a hard day's work. Those opportunities aren't going to be there for the next generation of black men and women. The grifting is coming to an end. Here's Will Cain, who is not an enemy of black people, not someone that's some racist that's out to get black people. He's a white man that's has had enough, like a lot of people. And so he's going to talk about what's really going on. Play the Will Cain clip.
Now, why would that be? Why would one story demand 100 articles and another story 0 articles? And it's because the media is more interested in the all capitals story, the narrative, than the facts or the truth. Take a look at the difference here. I want to show you the actual truth when it comes to crime. The story is about race. Race. Take a look at the black on white crimes, 385,000 in 2023. The white on black crimes, just under 118,000. You see the comparative numerical difference. But now, here's what the media actually does. They did what our camera operator just began to do a moment ago. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to show you literally what the media does with a camera. They zoom in on this number. This number, devoid of context.
This grift that has been going on, it's coming to an end. And the ramifications for your children will be enormous. Black Lives Matters and all these black people that are into racial idolatry, and I'm talking about 92% of us. And so those of you that think you're in that, well, that's not me. Yes, it is. Any of you that ever uttered the words, well, I disagree with the Black Lives Matter movement, but the sentiment I understand. That's an unbiblical principle. All lives matter. You stated that you wanted to be judged by the content of your character. Were you lying, just like Dr. King was lying when he said it? Can you handle that level of truth, that Dr. King was lying when he said that he wanted America to judge people by the content of his character? He wrote a great speech. That was a throwaway line given to him. It's not what he meant. It's not what the policies that were instituted were intended to do. They were intended to make your skin color give you special privileges here in America. And those special privileges are blowing up in our face. We have to get real serious about rejecting, identifying, moving away from these demonic principles, these demonic beliefs, this demonic culture that is destroying us. It's producing demons everywhere. So, no different, this abortion culture and these abortion mills, there's a demonic energy to all of that. This feminist culture, there's a demonic energy to all of that. I'm going to say this, and I hope that those of you involved in alternative lifestyles can understand that I'm not demonizing you, I'm demonizing the activity. I'm saying there are consequences to this LGBTQ stuff. According to the reports, apparently the black female judge that let this possessed demon out of jail so that he could kill that Ukrainian woman, the judge that let him out, the female black feminist judge that let him out, is married to a woman in her mind. She's in one of those gay mirages that people talk about. She's pretending to be married. That activity, not the person, but the activity, it's demonic. No different than sex outside of marriage. Me hanging out in strip clubs and banging strippers, demonic. So I'm not accusing you of something that I'm also not accusing myself of. Different vein, different light. Extramarital sex is wrong. It creates problems and complications. But this LGBTQIA plus silent P, alphabet mafia garbage, man, it put some demons out here in this world. And I'm sure that Teresa Stokes or whatever that judge name, I'm sure she thinks of herself as an angel and I am woman, hear me roar. And her girlfriend, when they're scissoring, they just think they're blessing the world. They're not. They're putting demonic energy into the air. And we're all paying the price for it. And the price for black people is coming due. And we're penalizing and jeopardizing the future of our young people because we want to be cowards and not cop to the mistakes that we've made. And this demonic culture that we've been allowed to define us, it's been a mistake. It is a mistake. It's destroyed our reputation. It's made us pariahs here in America. People have had it. They're going to do something about it. They're not going to leave their kids to be hunted down and killed, harmed, bullied by all of these demons we're releasing into society. I just wanted to say that, get that off my chest. You're watching me think this through in real time. I want your feedback. I invite you. I may be wrong about what I'm saying, but this is where my mind is at. This whole thing is, and I'm not the only one that's like, what is going on? How did we get here? We're watching the same information as everybody else. Anybody that watches this video of what this man did to this Ukrainian woman, you've got to be sickened and you have to wonder. Look, when the mass shooters happen, we're wondering how that happened. We're having discussions about it. But this black on white violence, this black on black violence, this black culture violence, this culture that we've let define us, this skin color obsession, we got to reject it. Play Harmony, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall.